Hey everyone! Today I actually want to show you guys a little bit about how to actually start your own vegetable gardens. So one of our first assignments in science class from the remote learning was to plan and prep a pretend vegetable garden. But I actually was planning on starting one myself. I don't know if anyone out there is planning on starting one as well, but I figured I'd show you how I do it in case maybe you get inspired and with the help of an adult want to start one at your own house. So I kind of have a few materials I wanted to show you and then explain how this is done. So right here, I've already set up my trays to plant my vegetables in. So again, I'm actually starting from seeds. So here's all my seed packets, okay? These trays are just filled with soil. So I'll do a close-up in a second and show you guys. But literally it is just these little trays with little, cells, they're probably 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches. They're not very big, filled with just dirt. And then you take your seeds and you'll just plop them in one by one. Again, I bought this big one because I plan on doing a lot of vegetables. If you don't have one of these or don't have access to one of these, you can actually just use an egg carton. Take all the eggs out after it's, whenever you've used it, or save the egg somewhere else. Take the carton, fill the little cells in the egg carton with soil, and you actually get, a good number of little seedlings started in that. So again, here's just the close-up of the soil and seed starter. It literally is just a bunch of soil in the bottom of this tray. And again, here's the seeds that I want to show you. I'm going to show you, this is one of the beds I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be doing beets, broccoli, Swiss chard, and kale. All right, you can pick vegetables that you like and put them in your own garden if that's what you wanted to choose. So I wanted to give you guys also a little information as to why I chose these specific vegetables to be planted together. The reason is that there's this thing called companion planting. And what that means is that certain plants grow way better with other types of plants. And this is very specific to different types of vegetables. So in order to know which vegetables I wanted to plant with each other, I actually just did a quick Google search of companion planting, and you can type in whatever vegetable it is you want to plant. You could do companion planting broccoli, companion planting tomatoes, and it will give you a whole list of different things. And so I used this chart right here, and it actually told me that kale, broccoli, and beets and chard are really good together. They're actually going to benefit one another and help each other grow. Be wary. This is important to do because sometimes you can actually plant things next to things that actually inhibit the growth. So if you plant tomatoes next to certain things like onions or things like that, it actually will prevent your tomato plants from growing very well, and you'll get really short plants or really small tomatoes that don't really taste very good. So the better you plant things, the better that you choose what you're going to put them with, probably the better your vegetables will grow. So kind of a fun little fact. So always conduct a little research before you do this kind of planting step. All right, now another really important part to starting seedlings and starting a vegetable garden is knowing that you have the space to do this. Now, all of the seed packets that you buy in the store, actually on the back of them will tell you specific information about that vegetable and how you start the seed. So really, really important that you actually read the backs of these so you know all the information about that vegetable. So specifically, if I were to choose my broccoli seeds, right? On the back, it says, sow in average soil in early spring. So that's right now. I'm choosing to start it right now. Or also in midsummer for a fall crop, which is good to know, which means I can plant this twice throughout the year and get broccoli twice. Sow means to plant. Sow in rows 24 inches apart. Sow seeds thinly and cover with 1/4 inch of soil. Keep evenly moist, all right? And they'll start to emerge within 10 to 21 days. Now, again, notice, it specifically told me how far apart to plant these. So I know I can't sow broccoli plants closer to one another than 2 feet apart. 24 inches is 2 feet. So again, if I were to plant these broccoli seeds too close to one another, they might not be able to grow as well. They might inhibit each other. They might take nutrients from one another. And we want to make sure that each of the broccoli plants is getting the maximum amount of nutrients, the maximum amount of sunlight and water that they need. So again, I need to listen to this. It says 24 inches apart. It also tells me, if this is something you want to try, that these are actually able to be grown in a pot or a container. So if that's something that may work for people at home, it's another fun, easy way to try to grow things. Instead of thinking you have to start a whole garden, you can actually just grow it in one single little container. And it says if you get a 12-inch or a foot wide container, you can put 1 broccoli plant in that and grow it. So fun fact also. So because this has very specific growing sizes and requirements, I always like to plan a garden bed beforehand. I actually like to do a drawing. This is where the artsy side of me comes in. So on my iPad or on a piece of paper, whatever you have, I just keep it on my iPad because it's easier to organize. I actually made my garden bed. My bed is gonna be 3 feet by 7 feet, and I've actually labeled what's gonna be in it. Notice, I've put little dots, if you can see it on the video there, that are color coordinated with the different vegetables. And I've actually spaced them out so that they are the right distance apart from each other so that they're not too crowded. And this then tells me how many plants I can fit in my garden bed. So with the kale, chard, broccoli, and beets that I'm gonna be planting and kind of using as an example with you guys, I can fit 3 kale plants because they grow bigger, so they need more space. I can fit what appears to be about 5 chard plants, 5 broccoli plants, and 5 beet plants. Now again, I'm making sure to label and grid off my bed so I know the distancing. These things have specific requirements, but that actually gives me a good heads up as to, how many I need to sow in my little cell, all right? So obviously, I now know, okay, 3 kale, 5 broccoli, 5 chard, and 5 beets. That means I actually want to probably plant a bit more of each of these so that I have extra seedlings in case that some of them don't survive. So I'll probably do, 6 instead of 5 and 4 or 5 instead of the 3 for the kale. So yeah, follow along. All right, so I was gonna start planting and showing you guys how to do it. Before I start planting seeds into the soil though, an important thing to pay attention to, which will be found on the back of your containers of your seeds, is the depth at which you plant them. So notice right here, right where I'm pointing to, it says depth, 1/4 inch. That's how deep I need to put the seed into the soil. If I do it too deep, the seedling won't be able to sprout up. If I do it too shallow, it probably will not get the nutrients it needs from the soil above it, or the roots won't be able to grow well enough. So very important, again, depth 1/4 inch. So this is again my broccoli seed. I'm gonna open up my container. Again, I want 5 broccoli plants in the end, but I'm gonna plant 6 of them. So I'm actually gonna dedicate this row right here to them. I'm gonna leave this row for the kale because this doesn't have very much soil in it. So there's 5 and it'll be good for the kale, which I only needed 3 of. So again, this here, also important to pay attention to, and sometimes it says this, sometimes it doesn't, is whether you need to put multiple seeds into the soil. Sometimes specific vegetables will say put 2 or 3 seeds in the soil. But again, for this, in this case, it doesn't, it just says 1, so I'm gonna plant 1 per each, pour a few of these into my hand. I don't need that many, look how tiny they are, oh my gosh. And so 1/4 inch, a good way to think about 1/4 inch, is it's about the depth of an eraser. So thus, I have my pencil with me right here with a perfectly good eraser, and I'm literally just going to put a little hole in the center with my pencil for each of these cells, just like this, making it as best I can, about 1/4 of an inch. And then I'm gonna use my little seedlings and I'm gonna plop them in the middle of each of the little holes I've made. Boop. Making sure I just do one per thing. All right. Ooh, I got a couple extras, I'll put them back in the bag. And so now they're in there, and all I need to do is just cover them up. I'll use my pencil again, and I kind of just brush a little bit of soil over them, just like that. Brush, 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 brush. You don't want to like pack it down, because then they won't be able to grow through when they're done. And I'm gonna just add a little bit of water. This soil has actually already been wetted with water, so it should be good, but just to make sure that they get the water they need, I'm just gonna pour just a tiny, tiny bit of water into each cell so that they definitely are hydrated and able to grow. Now after that, I'm gonna make sure that I label my cell, my rows. So I need to know in the future that this whole row is broccoli. If I forget to do that, I'm gonna be wicked confused, because these tiny little shoots that come up and that start growing are all gonna look the same, regardless of what type of plant they are, and I'm gonna be totally thrown off and not know which ones are which. So that's also super important. So I'll do that next. All right, now that I've planted the seeds, honestly, all I have to do is just wait and just keep watering them. I want to make sure that the soil doesn't dry out, because right now they're really, really little, like think of them like baby plants. And anytime they dry out, it probably means that they're in danger of dying. So we want to make sure that they stay moist and healthy. Hopefully within the next few days, I'll start to see little sprouts come up. And as these sprouts grow, I want to make sure I'm tracking them so that the roots of the plants aren't overtaking the entirety of the cells that they're growing in. Once that happens, I need to make sure I get them outside, planted in the garden, so that they're able to have more space for the roots to grow and more room for the plants to grow. So I'll keep you guys in the loop. I'm going to move these hopefully to a sunny spot in my house, and I'll do some updates over the next few days and weeks as these sprouts start to grow more and more. Hopefully you guys will kind of see the progress of my vegetable garden. Kind of neat, huh? Cool. Again, always shoot me messages if you have questions or want some more information about how to start a garden of your own. But yeah, thanks guys. See ya.